name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review for Dark. And usually with TV shows, I review each season, then the entire series. But just because this show is just one cohesive storyline, I had a hard time breaking it apart, so I'm just doing the entire series. I will not be going in depth. I will be mentioning mild spoilers for the main plot of the show. If you don't know what that is, you find out about episode 3, so if you want to know nothing going into it, then watch up to episode 3, then come back and watch my review. But everything past that point, I will not be going in depth to. So anyways, here we go. 1, 2, 3. This is a time traveling show, and one of the best ones there is. The time travel logic that's introduced here is consistent, and it's followed through from beginning to end. It establishes the rules early on, and it doesn't break them, and that's what's so great about this show. So it's very challenging on a cerebral level, and it's so interesting looking back on the beginning of the series. Just like there's a reveal in episode 3 where at the time I was just like, what? Oh my god, that's mind-blowing! And now that I've watched the entire show, I look back on that reveal and I'm just like, wow, that was such a small little reveal compared to what you later find out. And that's a great thing about this show. It paces you perfectly. It eases you into this world. It eases you into these rules and what's going on. And the more that you watch of the show, the more complex, the more challenging it becomes, to the point where in season 3, it's just completely out there. And if you weren't following along closely with absolutely every single element in season 1 and 2, you might get a bit lost. But season 3 is just a whole lot. Like, it's a lot. Sometimes that's a negative. Sometimes I'm like, okay, it's a little too much, but for the most part, it's incredibly well handled. And that's the great thing about this show, is that you can tell that they had a plan for each and every character, the overall storyline that would be told in this show. And it was followed through on. They weren't making it up on the spot. They had a clear plan in its shows, because the show is just very consistent. We're keeping track of all these different characters through different times, sometimes the same character in different times. And you think after a while you'd be like, I'm not following. But no, because of the pacing and how it eases you in, you're able to follow through with it. And that's one of the best parts of the show. The same characters have different character arcs. And it's just, I've never seen it done to this scope, to this ambition. Because this show is just as wild, as ambitious as they come. And I really respect that. I will say that the pilot episode for the show is really great. It sets up the atmosphere perfectly. And it introduces enough questions to the point where you're like, ooh, where's this going? I'm intrigued. And it's a great pilot episode. And I love how midway through season 1, you think you know where the show's gonna go. You're like, okay, Eureka's gonna end up there. But then right when you think the show's gonna zig, it zags. And you're like, wait, what? I didn't see that coming. And like I said, it just slowly expands the world that's on display here. Have you guys ever seen a movie called The Empire Strikes Back? Yes, I'm sure you have. Anyways, there's a moment in that movie. It's a classic moment. It's when Darth Vader says to Luke Skywalker, Luke, I am your father. And everyone's just like, what? Well, this show has so many of those moments, so many of those reveals, and each one holds emotional weight. Every time you find something out about a different character, it has emotional weight behind it. And whenever someone reunites with someone, those moments have emotional weight too. So it's not just on a cerebral level is it challenging, but the show constantly keeps you engaged on an emotional level as well. There's moments where characters come face to face with a different version of themselves, which they truly despise, and they have to deal with the fact that they're going to become that version of them. They're going to become a version of themselves that they truly despise. And that stuff is always compelling. And then throughout the entire show, we're constantly told what's going to happen. That this will happen, that this will happen, this will happen. And then it happens just the way you're told, but just watching all the pieces come into play is just fascinating. The moments where just everything becomes a full circle, it becomes a full cycle, they're just so well handled. Every single detail is so meticulously planned out. Sometimes you see a character come to an end, but you still follow that same character on a different time. So just so many layers to each and every character and each and every storyline. And once again, you can follow it. It's a cohesive story, and it's just so well told. I know I just keep saying that, but the ambition of this show is just so far out there, and at any point it could have easily collapsed under the weight of its own ambition, but it doesn't. It holds strong and it keeps building more and more and more, and it never loses sight of what it's truly about. And that's just what's so excellent about this show. This show is 3 seasons, and at the end of season 1 and season 2, I was just like, oh, maybe this show is biting off more than it could chew. Like, if it's gonna get that much bigger, I don't know if they can pull it off, but every single time they surprise me. And like I said, season 3 does become a lot, but if you pay attention, you follow each and every character, then you should be able to follow it. I had to watch a few videos explaining certain details about it, but I still had a general sense of what was going on, and once I had a better sense of what was going on, my appreciation only increased. If someone was to ask me what the show was about from beginning to end, I wouldn't even know where to begin. I don't even know if I could do it, just because there's so much here. So it just feels like a complete cerebral journey that you go on. And I have to mention that this show is incredibly well directed. The musical score just draws you in. It's very atmospheric. The visuals are beautiful. The soundtrack is fantastic, even though I do think it starts to rely on a slow song to end off each episode a bit too much. A few times, okay, fine, but after a while, I'm just like, oh, okay, this is getting a bit overused, but that's probably as big as my complaints go. The cast is all fantastic. I don't even know where to begin, but I have to mention a couple names. Jonas Hoffman as Jonas is absolutely phenomenal in this show. Dietrich Hollenbaum as Adam is also really great. Oliver Mascakuri as Ulrich is really fantastic. Actually, he looks a bit like Mads Mikkelsen to me. I don't know if that's just me. But yeah, to be honest, I could go on. There's so many great actors and actresses in this show that you haven't heard of who deserve so much more praise. Caroline Acorn, Lisa Vick, Cowie, and they're all German, so I can't even say their names, but they're all great, and the casting is top notch. Whenever you see a character in the past or in the future, it always looks like the same person. That element doesn't get talked about enough. If I had to pick a favorite episode, I'd pick season 2, episode 6. That episode is just a complete masterpiece. The finale is just emotionally satisfying in every single way. There's so much here that you can actually break apart about life, what's the meaning about it. They discuss the bootstrap paradox, which is just like if there's an infinite time loop, if someone sends something from the future to the past, then it'll keep going around and around and around in a cycle to the point where it's never created or destroyed. And I think those ideas are just brilliant. The show is brilliant. The cast is all amazing. It's so well directed. I have to mention the director's name. The director is named Baron Udo. I can't wait to see what this guy does next. This is just a fascinating, compelling show. It tests the audience on a cerebral level. It's emotional. It's just some of the best time travel storytelling I've ever seen. I'm going to go ahead and give Dark a 9.5 out of 10. The next time I watch this show, it could very well be a 10 out of 10. It is that good. Anyways, if you haven't seen Dark, it's a German sci-fi show. It is subtitled, but it's totally worth your time and attention. So definitely go watch it. But have you already seen it? Let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. What was your favorite twist or turn or reveal? Let me know. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.